The Michigan father whose son shot and killed 4 of his classmates in 2021. Prosecutors painted Crumbley as a careless, negligent father who bought his son the gun that the son used in the school shooting. Crumbley's wife, Jennifer, has already been found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and is set to be sentenced in a few weeks. I want to go to Whitney Wild. She's been following this trial as we are watching the jury come back, waiting this verdict. We hope to be able to actually hear this live. Whitney, what are we looking at? And obviously, this is victims' families are in this room waiting.
I cannot stress enough, Aaron, the significance of this moment. This is the end of this horrific, more than 2-year saga for these families that began November 30th, 2021.
All right, Whitney, sorry to interrupt you.
Let's 15-year-old Ethan.
Let's just listen here. I think they've just started, so we'll listen together.
The media was dying to know about. I'm going to read that into the record. I consulted with the attorneys who answered the question, and so then I sent the question back in. They agreed on the answer. The jury asked, please define Article 16.13, bullet number 4, define willfully neglected and grossly negligent. The lawyers agreed to answer the question. Please see jury instruction 16.18 for the definition of gross negligence. All other definitions are contained within jury instruction 16.13. I also want to point out that there's a request by the media to ask the jury members if they would be willing to remain in the courthouse and be questioned off camera. Because there would be a verdict and no other defendant pending trial, I would have been willing to do that. But the courthouse closes at 4:30, and I have continually imposed on the courthouse for the sake of this trial and the other one. I cannot impose on the staff for the deputies any further. I also want to indicate that with regard to case number 22-279990 FH, the People versus Jennifer Crumbley, there is an order restricting pretrial publicity. It was entered on July 14th, 2022. That order will be set aside as soon as the verdict is read. I will also be issuing an order that will obviously not be made public in the courthouse until tomorrow morning. In addition, case number 22-279989 FH, the People versus James Crumbley, the same thing. The order restricting pretrial publicity was entered on July 14th, 2022, and that order will also be set aside as of the reading of the verdict. Are you ready for the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. All rise for the jury.
Good evening. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you've worked very hard, and we've all been awaiting your decision. I know this was a very intense decision for you all to make. I believe you've selected a foreperson. Who's the foreperson? You're the foreperson. Could you read the verdict, please?
Each count?
Sure.
involuntary manslaughter as to Madison Baldwin. Guilty of involuntary manslaughter as to Madison Baldwin. Count 2, involuntary manslaughter as to Tate Meir. Guilty of involuntary manslaughter as to Tate Meir. Count 3, involuntary manslaughter as to Hannah St. Juliana. Guilty of involuntary manslaughter as to Hannah St. Juliana. Count 4, involuntary manslaughter as to Justin Schilling. Guilty of involuntary manslaughter as to Justin Schilling.
Thank you, foreperson. I'm going to ask that Ms. Williams poll the jury. So she's going to ask you each.
Juror in seat number 1, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 2, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 3, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 4, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 6, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 7, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 8, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 9, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 11, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 12, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror in seat number 13, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 14, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I know how hard this has been on all of you just by reading your face. I know this has been a very hard decision. We appreciate your time. I'm going to ask you to return to the jury room, and I'll be there with you in a few minutes, all right?
All rise for the jury.
James Crumbly found guilty of all 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. You heard each of the jurors there confirm that was their verdict. Whitney Wild, we were able to look at James Crumbly, the father of Ethan Crumbly, who killed 4 of his classmates, murdered 4 of his classmates. His father, James, now convicted of involuntary manslaughter. He was wearing those sort of headphones. He has a hearing impairment. You could see him visibly shaking his head each time the word guilty was said by the foreperson of that jury.
Well, that's right, Aaron. And his defense had continuously argued that he had no knowledge that his son posed any harm to anyone else, and that, in fact, he had tried to keep the firearm out of Ethan Crumbly's hands by hiding it in an armoire in his bedroom, and then separating out the ammunition and hiding it underneath a pair of jeans. And it was really these two elements that prosecutors really dug into in the case, and it was this idea that Ethan Crumbly had declining mental health, and it was obvious to everyone, and someone should have acted, specifically his parents should have acted, because there were just signs over and over and over for months leading up to the shooting that he posed a risk to those around him as well as to himself. So that was the first thing. And then specifically with the James Crumbly trial, Aaron, they really dug into the securing of the firearm. A couple pieces of evidence that prosecutors brought forth, again, was the idea that this handgun had been stored, but it didn't have a lock on the firearm. It takes just seconds to lock up a firearm with a lock that is standard, that comes in a kit with a handgun. He didn't do that. That was one of the things that prosecutors really dug into. We can't know what piece of evidence it was that pushed the jury in this direction, but other pieces of evidence that they brought forth included a April of 2021 text message that Ethan Crumbly sent to a friend. And in it, he said that he had told his father that he was hearing people talk to him and seeing someone in the distance. And here's a quote from the text from Ethan to his friend. "I actually asked my dad to take me to the doctor yesterday, but he just gave me some pills and told me to suck it up." So those are some major pieces of evidence, Aaron, that jurors heard throughout the trial. This trial saw 15 witnesses for prosecutors spread over 5 days. The defense brought just one witness, James Crumbly's sister, Karen Crumbly, who said that she saw the family in April and then again in June 2021, and she did not see anything that seemed off, anything concerning at all. But another piece of evidence, Aaron, and just to wrap it up, that prosecutors really leaned into was this idea that it was James Crumbley who brought Ethan to the gun range several times, at least 6 times from June 2021 through November, and that it was James Crumbley who bought the firearm that Ethan eventually used to kill those 4 students and injure several others at his high school.
Whitney, thank you very much. And it is a significant verdict, this guilty verdict for James Crumbley, the father of Ethan Crumbley. This also follows the guilty verdict for Ethan Crumbley's mother, Jennifer Crumbley, who was tried separately and is awaiting sentencing in early April. Guilty on all 4 counts. Ethan Crumbley killed 4 of his classmates. He is serving life in prison without the possibility of parole, even though he was 15 at the time.